Well, a very warm welcome back to the channel, and something a little bit different tonight. I'm sitting here with Jeroen from the StarScaper channel. You guys will be very familiar with him. And while we're waiting for these clouds to clear off, I thought it'd be a good idea just to get to know Jeroen a little bit more and understand a little bit more about his process and a bit more about his channel, and just get to know him a little bit better. Does that sound good to you, Jeroen?
That sounds good.
That sounds good. Good job, really, because you're the only guy here. No one else is going to talk to me about astrophotography. So
you'll have to do with me.
That sounds good. Excellent. So, why don't you start off? Just explain a little bit about where you live and
Sure.
just a bit about you.
Yeah, cool. I live in the most light polluted country in the world. I live in the Netherlands. Furthermore, it's a really nice country. I live in the middle of the Netherlands, and yeah, what else is there to say? I have a YouTube channel, StarScaper, of course, which you said. Love doing astrophotography and love getting out under the stars, especially. I love doing these adventures, just as you're doing.
Fantastic. It'd be really useful to understand a little bit more about how you got into the night sky. Maybe astronomy, maybe astrophotography, whatever your route into all of this was.
Yeah, cool. I think Star Trek. Watching science fiction series, I was always really excited, really curious what was out there, etc. And as a kid, I'm not really sure how old I was. I think about 14 years old or something. I bought a telescope, a sort of beginner telescope, which is not a good start of the hobby because it gets a bit frustrating, but still I was really into it, just setting it up in the backyard, trying to find things in the night sky and wondering what was out there. And then I kind of lost it for a couple of years because that was really difficult working with the telescope. And after a couple of years I started photography again. That was mainly landscape photography. I loved the adventures, getting out, and when I did that for about 2 or 3 years, I thought, hey, why don't I start photographing the stars again?
Combine the two.
Combine the two, and never looked back.
Awesome.
Actually, yeah.
Very good.
Still loving it.
So when you started off the same way as I did with visual astronomy and telescopes and that sort of thing. When you were into that, were you into mainly sort of planetary stuff or lunar or deep sky? What was your thing? Was it just anything you could see from the Netherlands because it's so light polluted?
Yeah. Basically the last, but I really wanted to take a look at those Hubble pictures from my backyard, but it wasn't going to happen.
But it had the Hubble pictures on the box of the telescope, so you can,
for $200. But basically, the only thing I managed to look at was planets, which was still awesome, by the way. I mean, the first time I remember when I saw those rings around Saturn, for example, that's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely epic thing to see.
It is. So I only saw some things on the moon and some planets, and that was basically it when I did visual.
Yeah, good stuff. So the route into landscape photography then was a fairly natural transition from using telescopes and that sort of thing. What sort of stuff did you enjoy shooting?
In landscape photography, sunsets, sunrises, misty mornings, sun rays in the woods,
Very nice.
Especially that last one, because I live at an area called the Veluwe, and we have some beautiful woodlands, and especially on those, those quiet, misty mornings, and when the sun rises and you get those rays over those forest paths, that was really beautiful, I think. And also we went on vacation quite a lot to Switzerland, and
nice.
Of course the camera, I brought it with me, and I really love mountains, but we don't have them in the Netherlands, so I didn't shoot them too often. So basically all kinds of sunsets, sunrises, just what was available around my house or on vacations.
So did the sort of the visual astronomy stuff, did that die down at that point, or did you do both at the same time? Or?
No, I actually did visual astronomy maybe for only a year as a kid, so it was just peeking around just a little bit, and then a couple of years of nothing, and then I started photography a bit, and then later that transitioned into astrophotography. Actually, at first I did deep sky astrophotography for about 2 years.
Oh, that's tough stuff. That's hard stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's super technical, but I actually like that in the beginning. I still like it, but I have sold everything by now. But I mean, I was so amazed watching Astro Backyard, Trevor Jones, you probably know him. You know, I could see what he could do from his light polluted backyard, which I always wonder how his backyard is light polluted, because he seems to live in the middle of nowhere compared to where I live. But I thought, you know what, let's just look into this and give it a try. And yeah, you know, once you buy one thing, you need the other, and
it's
a little
a
bit
rabbit
more.
hole. You get into it very deep.
Definitely is, but when you shoot the Andromeda Nebula, for example, for the first time from your backyard, and that is just, I was so blown away by, wow, can I really do that here? And yeah, I did that for about 2 years, I think, and really loved it until the itch came back to, you know, I really want to be under dark skies myself again. I want to see the stars. I want to go on adventures, and yeah, that's how I started Nightscape photography again.
So that's super interesting. As I think you know, I did deep sky astrophotography for a short while. I even built an observatory in my back garden to do it from.
Super cool.
But I really struggled to get a connection. I mean, first of all, I struggled with it anyway. It was so hard. I found the technical
connection
side,
on your camera, on your telescope. Right?
Everything to go wrong. I know there's a lot that can go wrong when we're doing this, but the level of stuff that can go wrong with deep sky is just next level. And I found that quite frustrating, and just lacked this connection with the sky, which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted to recreate almost like that visual astronomy youth that I had, similar to you. Just wanted to be out under the stars, and the adventure side was gone as well somehow for me.
It sounds like a very similar story indeed. I mean, when doing deep sky, I was just having my telescope outside, troubleshooting, shifting other cables around, and sitting inside with the lights on your iPad, watching the sub exposures come in. I mean, that's pretty cool, but you kind of lose the connection. I totally agree.
So when was, how did you sort of decide to combine landscape with night sky stuff? Had you seen other people's shots? What was the inspiration to actually try and combine those two things?
Obviously, I started watching Alan Wallace vlogs. So Alan was a really big inspiration for me. You know, he did exactly the thing I wanted to do. And once you get into Alan Wallace, you notice that there are other people around. I really love watching YouTube videos. I mean, I love watching it, the final photo results, but the adventure and the feelings, you know, behind those adventures and behind those pictures, I think are much more interesting.
Yeah, completely.
And that's basically when I thought, you know what, let's just try that for myself.
Here we go.
So I just drove to a heather field and near my house, and I tried it, and it looked kind of crap if I look back to it now, but right then I was also really amazed. So wow, I can really do this even from the Netherlands, and you see some Milky Way, and
that's amazing. Do you ever look back at those first shots now and see how far you've come, or are they tucked away in a drawer somewhere out of sight, out of mind?
Well, I still have them on my Instagram page, I think. So sometimes I scroll back a couple of years and I'm like, okay, I've done some different stuff.
I am getting better. I am.
I hope so. I hope so.
That's awesome. And obviously, having done landscape photography first, you had an idea about composition and this sort of stuff as well, which I always think is a really helpful thing to know how to do. I never had that landscape photography introduction, so I was straight into nighttime photography.
Yeah, it shows in your photos.
It's a terrible composition.
No, just kidding.
But it shows in my daytime photos. I was saying to you earlier, I can't take pictures during the day. All of my daytime pictures are out of focus, overexposed, terrible compositions. I appreciate some people might say I can't take pictures at night either, but I beg to differ. Anyway, let's get back to it. So you started shooting nightscapes then, and obviously nightscapes are also a bit of a rabbit hole if you kind of take them quite seriously quite quickly. Maybe not compared to deep sky, but it can get like that. So why don't you talk me through, I guess, kind of the gear you're using at the time, and kind of how that then transitioned over time?
Yeah, so I started out just with the camera I had at that moment, which was a Fuji X-T20, I think. So it's a crop camera, and I was using, I think, just the kit lens, the 18 to
Okay.
55 lens, f2.8 or something, and well, that got some stars.
Yeah.
After that, I thought, you know what, I need a lens which is a bit more, which catches a bit more light, maybe a little bit more wide angle. So I bought a kind of cheap Samyang 12mm f2 lens, I think it was, and that did a much better job already. After that, I transitioned into a Fuji X-T2, which was basically the bigger brother, and it could do sort of interval timer in the camera, which is super handy.
Very handy. Why don't all cameras
exactly.
have that?
It is so easy to program that in, but even my Z6 at the moment doesn't have it yet.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Is.
How much do we pay for these cameras? Like hundreds, thousands of
just
euros
for a built-in
pounds.
intervalometer. That's insane, right?
Crazy.
Anyways, by then I thought, you know what, I need a full frame camera, maybe because those seem to perform a bit better in dark situations. So I got an old school Canon 6D, which you are familiar with.
Very much so. Yeah.
Still a very good camera, I think. Value for money is still insane.
Yeah.
Once I've had that for a while, I thought, you know, maybe I want to astro modify my camera because, you know, those H alpha nebulae, which you also saw with deep sky photography, how cool would it be to include that in your nightscape landscape photos? So I did that. Then of course you also need to have a H alpha clip-in filter if you really want to do it properly. So yeah, that's also another 300 euros.
All adds up.
Need more lenses, so I changed my lens setup a couple of times, and I ended up with a Sigma 14 to 24, which was just doing a much better job compared to my previous 3 Samyang 24mm lenses, which could be awesome, but the variation in those lenses
changed a lot.
just
Mine was terrible. But I've heard a lot of people get great ones.
Yeah, and if you have a great one, that lens is also the ultimate value for money, I think, still. But yeah, you know, I kind of noticed that the newer cameras, my Astro buddies, my Astro bros were shooting with, had some cleaner results then, and I upgraded eventually to a Nikon Z6, which I now with a 20mm lens f1.8 and 50mm 1.8. And of course a star tracker. Also have 3 star trackers by now, so yeah, that can also be a bit of a money pit. You're totally right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but you know, talking about gear, I think gear is actually not so super important as people think. I mean, if I compare the shots I've made with my super old Canon 6D compared to the newest cameras of some other people who were standing at the same place, the results looked kind of the same eventually, you know. So yeah, you could spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but I always suggest to people just shoot with what you have, and if you stack, for example, you would get excellent results with about every camera.
Well, so much just comes down to good composition, good skies. You got those 2 things, and you've probably got a good shot, regardless of what equipment you use. But there is one thing I want to pick up on there, which is, and I need you to say something to the camera in a second, which is, you said that Canon 6Ds are remarkably good value for money, nice and cheap. Now, as you know, I've got a few Canon 6Ds, and I've also had some which have disappeared. So Esther, my wife, will be watching this, and so I just need corroboration that using Canon 6Ds is an exceptionally good value for money way of doing astrophotography.
So Esther, if you're watching, he says you are, but Canon 6Ds are really excellent value for money. Trust me. I'm from YouTube.
You heard it here first. Well, that's a good segue, actually, talking about YouTube. So we obviously got to know each other because of your YouTube channel.
Yep, that's right.
How did that start?
How did that start? Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. As I said, I really enjoyed watching astro vlogs. You know, the more adventure kind of astro vlogs, which Alan Wallace did. Richard Teti also makes a lot of them. But there were some smaller channels by then also, but that was basically it. And, you know, in my free spare time, I really love watching YouTube. I even have YouTube Premium because that's basically the only TV I watch. So I thought, you know, I am getting to those super cool places more and more myself. I mean, we were going into France, into Germany, to darker skies, and the adventures began getting bigger and bigger. And I thought to myself, if you think there's not enough videos out there which you would like to watch. Why not try to make it yourself? I mean, the least you'll get from it is a super nice souvenir. It's a sort of travel vlog thing to look back to a couple of years. Oh yeah, you remember that time? So yeah, that's basically when I tried to make videos, and it was also how do you say that, a sort of next step, because making pictures only began to get a little bit repetitive, maybe still good adventures, but I really needed the challenge, and I thought just make that, and I haven't looked back since then. Also, I've been
very
doing this
cool. So talk me through that first video.
No.
And how that went. People could watch it, I suppose, but from your perspective, behind the camera, or behind the cameras, because obviously you're operating the camera you're doing stills with, you're trying to create a story, you're filming yourself. That sounds quite hard. Well, I know from experience. Only an idiot would do something like that. So tell me how that went. Or maybe I'm just rubbish at this, and maybe you thought it was easy.
No, it was actually pretty hard. I mean, you end up with a video. I think my first video was 8 minutes or something. I was extremely nervous talking to the camera. I didn't have a microphone, so I was just making voice records on my phone, because that sounded a bit better than the onboard microphone. And it was super fun to do, but it was also really hard, because it took much more time than I expected, it is awkward to see yourself on camera, especially the first couple of times. And when you are shooting, I deliberately chose a location which was just super easy to reach, and I only wanted to make one shot, because I knew beforehand probably you're also thinking about video and everything at the same time, and your camera almost got fired.
It's my microphone I'm worried about.
It does get a bit warm.
You guys can't see this, but we've put the microphone on the edge of this fire pit here. And I think it's okay. It's not getting too hot, but it's definitely within the strike range.
I think Paul really got balls here, but it's still going, I think. Now, but it was hard, but also fun, and maybe a bit awkward. And I mean, even now, I think such an adventure as this, for me, normally it's about, if your total headspace is 100%, I'd say it's, for me, 50% video, 20% making pictures, because that's actually the easy part sometimes, and then 30% trying to enjoy the evening also. And
and it's so interesting. I think we were discussing earlier how your perspective changes. You think you can just go out and take photos normally, and you happen to be doing a video, but actually it's not like that at all. You have to go out with the idea of making a film that happens to be about astrophotography, and you try and do some decent astrophotography and have some fun in between it all as well.
That is the proper way to do it.
But actually, I found it's something which is quite enjoyable as well. It's become its own thing, rather than just a record and a memory. It's become its own thing as well.
Totally true. Often I also say to the guys I am shooting with that I'm more glad if I have a good video than good photos. For me, the photos have become a little bit more to the background. Of course, you want to make photos. That's the reason why you come out. But the creative process of also making the videos, as you said, I also really enjoy that. Yeah,
super interesting. It's just something to do on a cloudy night as well, when you're at home. And
did you say cloudy?
Well, I tell you what, it's clearing up. So this we may have to cut short this this chat at some point. But just remind me how long you've been doing YouTube for, or videos for now.
I think about 2.5 years.
Okay,
And this video will probably be number 83 or 84 maybe.
Fantastic. So have you got something big planned for the big 100?
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if that would be a comeback to La Palma.
Risky.
Risky indeed, yeah.
That would be absolutely. So tell me a bit more, I guess, about your plans for the channel. What kind of direction do you want to take it in?
That's a really good question. I actually don't plan ahead that much. I mean, you told me you have to go out with the idea of making a film, and that is indeed the proper way to do it. But with me, I'm mostly shooting with friends, and then it's basically an idea. Okay, we go on an astro adventure, and while we are driving there, I'm just making a video, trying to get it all together as we go. I plan on doing this for a very long time, or at least as long as I enjoy it. I don't have any big plans or directions. I just try to do what I really love, and I really try to get that feeling across to other people, hoping to make them more enthusiastic about getting under the night sky, because it's awesome.
I have to say, what comes across on your channel so well is just the fun and the enjoyment of it, and I think that's because it's quite a social channel. You have other people with you, and like you can, everyone gets to know all the others over sort of the course of a few episodes, and I think that's fantastic that there's this camaraderie and spirit of fun around it all. It really does come across really well. There's a good
really
pace
nice
to it, and it's very they're very uplifting to watch. And you're also very good at filming in front of other people, which, as you know, is something I hate doing. And today's been super awkward for me because I've had to do some of my filming in front of Jeroen, and it's good he understands how hard that is. But it's that's what I think a key difference is just how yours is such a sociable channel. I think that's great.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, I really think your channel also has its own very own ID, I mean, everybody is always saying, also the friends I'm shooting with, oh, Paul, that's that guy with that fantastic cinematic B-roll and video, and there's those really relaxed kind of atmospheric videos, and I think you do that really well. And we go on the same kind of adventures, but you seem to be making a whole different kind of videos sometimes.
I think it's really interesting. You can have the same. I'm interested in how our videos are going to turn out tonight. The same, like everything's the same apart from our approach. I think that would be a really interesting
Super
time.
Curious.
Now, whether that video comes out before or after this, I just need to see how successful tonight's shooting is. So, what are some of your most memorable adventures?
First thing that pops into mind is, of course, La Palma, because it was my worst and my best outing. But I mean that first 2 nights there. I mean, if you are under La Palma skies, and that's I think it's officially a Portal 2 or something, but it was so amazing. I mean, the skies were so extremely clear, and we could see stuff with our own eyes.
Wow!
In the Milky Way, all the dust bands, and it was just as if the Milky Way was really glowing. That was so amazing. And I'll never forget that. For 2 reasons, obviously, because I also broke my leg on the end of our second night.
They were fantastic, but also very hard to watch, those videos. So first of all, the first 2 before you broke your leg were amazing, because by then I'd known what happened to you.
Yeah.
And so we were watching the videos and thinking, I hope it's not this one. And you kept saying, I'm really looking forward to the next few nights. It's going to be an epic. And we were sitting at home thinking, oh no, it's horrible.
Well, the only good thing was the 2 days after, which we also planned there, it was totally clouded over. So actually I didn't miss anything.
Yeah. But you were doing it for the algorithm anyway, weren't you? The broken leg was just for the views.
I mean, I didn't actually break my leg. It was just
all staged,
for the algorithm.
All staged. Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, other than the broken leg, are there any other sort of horror stories or stuff that's gone wrong that you want to?
Fortunately, no horror stories, but you do get some scares often. Especially if you go out alone, which I don't do quite often.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, for example, if I shoot on a heather field, I have to walk through the woods.
Yeah.
And I know in these woods there are wild boar or that kind of stuff, and I have been face to face with wild boar, which is kind of scary sometimes.
Stuff. Yeah.
Sometimes in the Netherlands you also go to places where maybe you shouldn't be going, because officially it's closed after sunset. But astrophotography, dark places is mostly nature.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to talk with someone also who doesn't really appreciate if you're there. So that's not a real horror story, but it can get the zing out of the night,
I think people are often they're the biggest hazard a lot of the times, but actually I think people are often just as nervous and scared of you as possibly you are of them.
Most definitely.
And I think sometimes just speaking to them, explaining what you're doing, pointing out a few things in the sky, look, there's some clouds, that sort of thing.
And then they're fine mostly.
Yeah, 100%. So do you have any adventures that you've got planned, or kind of bucket list style places that you want to go to and shoot?
I do have bucket lists, but I have not planned to go there yet.
So you need to tell me where they are then.
Yeah, those are basically the cliche things. I'd love to go to Namibia, for example, or to Atacama Desert or Utah, shooting those rock formations and, you know, basically everywhere where there's a dark sky, but preferably also a good landscape, which makes good epic foregrounds would be awesome.
Yeah, fantastic.
And what I'd really love to do sometime is combine a sort of urban exploration kind of thing, a building which is dilapidated, for example, with stars above it, because I've done urban exploring for a couple of years, really love that, and I'd love to combine that sometime, you know, that I think urban exploration, you know, you are in abandoned buildings, and if you have the Milky Way above it, the stars above it, it tells kind of a story of, you know, how things on Earth keep on moving around, but the sky seems to be eternal, or that kind of thing. I'd really love to do that.
Some great stories around that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
brilliant. Well, look, it's been fantastic speaking to you. Thanks very much indeed for inviting me over here to, well, not to the Netherlands, inviting me to Germany. And
my pleasure.
I mean, hopefully it's all going to clear up a little bit.
Still a bit of haze, but who knows?
Certainly, I think it's okay to get a few shots done. Well, look, I hope you enjoyed that. Something a little bit different from my channel. I'm looking forward to the next couple of nights here with Jeroen.
Same.
And I imagine by the time this goes out, you'll have seen those 2 nights. So hopefully it was a lot of fun. So anyway, catch up with you on the next episode. That's not what I say. That's not what I say. I don't say catch up with you on the next episode.
Oh, you're just trying to be cool around me, more cool than you usually are.
I think that must be it. That's it. I'm with the youth, so I have to be really cool.
I'll catch you later, dude.
Yeah. I'm going to fit it like that anyway. No, I feel super self-conscious.